Hey guys, Tip here. So Scintillia is gonna come in next week, and for those who are still wondering whether should you pull her, I would say she is pretty good and worth to pull, considering that she also has a melee attack buff which can benefit to your entire melee team. She is also a very good unit for the current meta due to her dodging mechanic and also defensive special skill. Besides, she also does pretty good damage and also quite tanky just like any other heroes. I feel that she is kind of similar to Sohee, except for the fact that Scintillia has a dodging mechanic in which Sohee doesn't have. But the only thing that I dislike about her is that it will most likely take her 3 skill to chain. Other than that, she's all good. So today we are gonna review and talk about a few teams that you can build when Scintillia patch comes. So let's go. So for the first team, no doubt that it's gonna be Fire Mono team. In this Fire Mono team, it consists of Plitvice, Vishuvac, and also Scintillia. So there are many top KR players are actually using a Plitvice instead of Lean, probably because of their tankiness and sustain that Plitvice has over the Lean. Plitvice can pretty much stand there and right click with the enemies like FP, but it would be tough for a Lean to fight against the FP if the enemies is using a negation card. But I believe that there are not that many players from the Asia server will be maxing out their prominence for their Plitvice, so I think Link with max brick weapon can also work pretty well as well. While Vishuvac plays a very important role in this team because it gives tons of HP buff from the party buff and also special skill. With all this melee attack and also HP buff from the team, this will make Scintillia even stronger to fight against the enemies. So there are actually 2 weaknesses for this team, which is it will weak against the water team like Bianca and also Mayreel, and also it will only work for the players who have a massive stats. And moving on to the next is FP, Scintillia, and also Lilith. As I mentioned previously, Scintillia pretty much works the same as Sohee, so I would say this team will work even better and stronger with Lilith in the team. You can never deny the fact that armor break is one of the stronger debuffs in the game, so having Lilith in the team can be a very big threat towards the enemies because there are actually not much of counter towards Lilith except for the FP and also MK99. Since there is no Sohee in this team, so you may have a hard time dealing with the enemy's MK99, because we all know that MK99 is very broken, especially if the player is a whale or someone who has a massive stat on her. But overall, this is still one of the best meta team that you can build when Scintillia comes into global. And moving on to the third team, we have FP, Scintillia, and Sohee. Some of the players may run this team, but I don't recommend you guys to build this team because Lilith will always be a better threat towards the enemies because of the armor break. So if you remove Lilith from the team, you will face a big disadvantage against the enemies, especially when they are running Lilith against you. So basically this team is focused on countering against the light team that has FP or MK99 with Mayreel range team, so overall it's still not so bad to use. And moving on to the fourth team, we have current meta team, which is FP, Lilith, and Sohee. This team is by far the most solid and also well balanced team because it has everything it needed to counter most of the meta heroes with the armor break, and also most importantly, Sohee is there to counter the MK99. I believe that this team will still work pretty well as the meta team even with the release of Scintillia. So moving on to the next, we have the range team, which is MK99, Noxia, and also Mayreel. MK99 will always be the main core of the range team just like FP, while Noxia is there to provide the HP party buff to increase the toughness of the team. While Mayreel is there to provide the crit buff for MK99 to allow her to do big damage with crits. Besides, with the HP party buff from the Noxia, this will allow her and also Mayreel to be tanky enough to skill and run and chain down the enemies. Overall, this is also one of the strongest meta range team if you prefer to run 3 attackers in the team. So moving on to the next, we have MK99, Noxia, and also Bianca. This is pretty much the same as the 15, but it just replaced the Mayreel with the Bianca. Bianca will be benefit from the range attack party buff to do great damage, but this team will require the players to have a bigger stats to actually make this team work. Bianca is a very strong range hero, not only because she hits hard, but also because she can lifesteal and also put the attack break on the enemies to lower down their attack damage. And come to the last one, we have MK99, Oghma, and also either Mayreel or Bianca. When I'm playing with the range team, I will always prefer to have Oghma in the team because it really does make a huge difference between the one who has Oghma and also without Oghma in the team. The main difference doesn't come from either HP or defense party buff itself, but rather the special skill from the Oghma, which will boost up the defense of the entire team significantly. So this team is highly recommended to those who want to build an endgame range team for the arena, but at the same time it also requires you to have a massive stats and also max weapon to actually make this work. And that's all for today's video, and I hope you guys enjoy watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!